Representatives of various Syrian opposition groups arrived in the Swiss city of Geneva on Monday for peace talks which many hope will end the multiple-year conflict in the country. The talks that are sponsored by the United Nations were expected to also include a delegation from the Syrian government. But Damascus refused to attend over the opposition's persistence that President Bashar al-Assad must go before any initiative toward ending the crisis in the country is taken up.
Some of our members see that just saying about this point represents a precondition. We don't support preconditions. We are here to negotiate, but our goal in the negotiation will be the departure of Bashar al-Assad from the beginning of transition.
So the opposition, of course, have no legitimacy. If they were to contest elections, if they were to participate in elections, they never had any support among Syrians, very marginal at most. The war against the country was organized by Western powers and Israel years before the Arab Spring, in fact.
It appears that no breakthrough should be expected even in this round of talks in Geneva, just like the previous 7 failed rounds held so far. This particularly in light of the recent military advances by the Syrian government against the terrorists, and the opposition sticking to its guns in demanding that Assad must go.
There is really very little to negotiate. Bashar al-Assad and the Syrian Arab Army have reconquered at least half of the country, and there is no hope of defeating Assad right now. So the purpose of the talks are really to try to bide their time, to see if they can drag things out further.
Meanwhile, UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, briefed the Security Council on Monday about Syria peace talks. De Mistura said the Syrian government has not yet confirmed whether it would sit at the negotiating table with the opposition in Geneva. But he nonetheless tried to create an atmosphere of optimism that a political solution to the Syrian crisis was eventually getting within reach.
This crisis, one of the worst in the history of the UN, now has the potential, real potential, to move towards a genuine political process. A clearer map of the escalation, ceasefire and deconfliction arrangement has emerged, largely enabled by Astana and Amman.
Over the past few weeks, the world has seen significant progress in diplomatic efforts to end the Syrian crisis, particularly those initiated by Russia. But it appears that more debates among parties involved in the conflict are required before real progress is made toward ending the conflict. A conflict that has left hundreds of thousands killed, a nation destroyed, millions displaced, and many countries affected.
The purpose of the war was to break the country up by using a coalition of jihadist groups from around the world, financed primarily by the Saudis and the Qataris and the Turks. And there was never really anything like a homegrown opposition in Syria. The opposition that existed in the country was very manageable. So the war has very much been more, rather than a rebellion against the government or a revolution, the war is an invasion of the country, an invasion by jihadist groups from all over the world, supported by the Western powers.
It appears that the key players involved in the Syrian conflict are already gathering their strength to end the Syrian conflict sooner or later. Any solution to the conflict could lead to certain political changes that would go beyond Syria's borders. There will be, to the same effect, a real diplomatic struggle among the key players involved in the Syrian situation. Some are likely to see themselves as winners, and some fear that they could end up as losers. And to the same effect, certain behind-the-scenes struggles still continue, either to widen the margin of victory or lower the scope of defeat after the crisis is over.